Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our Overwatch World Cup 2019 preliminary matches. We are covering Bracket A. That is myself, Mitch Leslie, and Matthew Morello. Going through this bracket now into our second match. It's going to be, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be Australia versus New Zealand. There are rivalries between these two teams, but there are actually a lot of teammates on either side of the battlefield right now. That is an exciting prospect. A lot of these players are very well known to each other playing in that Australian contenders scene. Here is our map set. You'll see we'll be starting with Control, onto Hybrid and Escort.
You're going to get a much different match than what we got with New Zealand versus Austria. I mean, that was one that it was completely one-sided in favor of New Zealand. This one is going to be a back-and-forth slugfest, as Australia usually performs really well at the Overwatch World Cup. They've had some really standout performances. Coming in this year, playing through the prelims, they're going to have to be really good here against New Zealand because, like we mentioned in the previous game, these are single elim here for the prelims. So they do have the chance to be eliminated really early, which would shock a lot of people.
It's worth bearing in mind that Eichenwalde now returns to this Australian roster. He was part of that fantastic run that they had back in 2017 when they beat Japan in Sydney and they made it to BlizzCon. He returns now alongside Trill, Punk, Unter, Tung, CKM, who we're familiar with already, and we've already seen New Zealand as well. Both these teams boasting some star power. We're straight into Lijiang Tower.
And you're going to see both of these teams play the meta, right? Reaper, Doomfist, Double Shield. That'll be signed for New Zealand, who had a good performance against Austria, mostly playing the Bastion, come out with an early first pick. So going to have New Zealand be able to take the point.
Signed two-time Contenders Australia champion with Team Order. He's probably most well known for his Zarya during the GOATS period, but he's got a huge roster of DPS picks at his disposal. Good start for New Zealand, but it's going to be a coalescence here from Tung to begin this next fight. Joker a little bit low, and they're going to be both Morris hitting that Q key as Cyan tries to drop straight on him. Holt is thrown up and into the backline. Was Aichu up? He got there, but it wasn't quick enough to find the kill before Punk and CKM were dispatched, and New Zealand come out looking just a little bit more lethal early.
Yeah, and Aichu will take out Sign towards the end of this, so New Zealand has to back up. You lose your one-shot kill potential with the Doomfist there. Don't want to play up in that forward choke. This may allow Australia to take some real estate on the point, get another fight a little bit earlier than they probably expected.
Yeah, they move in pretty quick. A lot of early damage on CKM, but he gets those shields quickly enough. Hunter a little low right now, and Punk has a Gravitic Flux. He's going to let it go immediately. What a catch! Most of New Zealand are held aloft here, but Cyan is still able to find the kill on Unto with the Meteor Strike. CKM responds with one of his own now, though. And this should be a pretty safe cleanup. Tung already another coalescence. August obviously not far behind, but that will be Australia getting back in the saddle. But already 55% on the clock, 54 for New Zealand.
And you see how much of these fights come down to the Doomfist. You know, having your Doomfist alive, being able to make a play with the Doomfist as Aichu up with the Death Blossom going to play off to the side here. So you did get 54% for New Zealand. You have some big ultimates here available. You'll have Gravitic Flux with no sound barrier available. Ooh, nice cheeky spot getting up to the high ground.
Yeah, he has the Death Blossom available. He was going to wait out the Gravitic Flux though, and then going to jump straight on in. He gets one. It's traded though. Color Hex finding the kill on Ichu up. Sound barrier for Munter thrown in the mix, and it helps a heck of a lot. Color Hex tried to make the play with his own Death Blossom, but Australia were kept durable by Unter. And now they'll continue to push in. Unter, a bit of a Reddit Lucio in his own right, Matt. Loves to make the plays.
And even if they didn't have the sound barrier, you had Punk, who was able to just use the Kinetic Grasp and eat up so much of that Death Blossom. It's such a large HP pool at that moment in time. It's come back to normal levels now, but for Australia, you'll just get a Gravitic Flux in this fight. No ultimates here for New Zealand, so you can probably win a fight just with the Flux, knowing how close everybody plays together.
Australia, give a bit of space right now. Maybe set up a better Gravitic Flux. There comes a rocket punch in. That is disgusting. Fantastic connection from Punk there. Newer addition to the Boston Uprising Academy team. And Plies is lucky to get away with his life. He tries to throw out the experimental barrier, but Punk has the off angle on them here. Australia do lose CKM as Sign jumps on in. Ichup is missing, so there's no DPS up for the Aussies right now, but they're at 78% and counting, and Unter chimes in, removing Sign from the fight. And now New Zealand need to regroup around this sound barrier. They've got not much else left.
You will be able to engage with sound barrier, though, knowing that there's no Gravitic Flux on the other side. So you'll be able to use the sound barrier to buy yourself some time, a little bit extra moments in the fight, a larger HP pool to make something happen. They got to go quick, though.
Here it is, Sign straight on in, gets rid
big.
of Tongue immediately. That's such a huge pickoff.
Can you save sound barrier now?
I think you may as well. You've taken most of the fight out of Australia before it even begins. And again, this player on your screen, he's definitely one to watch. I mean, I think Contenders Australia viewers are very familiar with seeing him just dominate in the scene.
Well,
and Eat You Up sort of had a bit of a break, Matt, from, obviously from representing the World Cup in general. But
yeah. And also Custa this year, not
that's
playing.
right.
He pulled himself out
Yep.
For Australia, so if you're looking for Custa, not here this year as well. So double support ultimates here for New Zealand. Gravitic Flux, that fight was huge. You have a nice ultimate advantage now.
Great pickoff. Sign already being removed, and CKM calculating on this Meteor Strike. No connection here, but he's looking for Color Hex. Did manage to get the knock up there, and Eat You Up's going to go for a Death Blossom. Both, in fact. Color Hex getting rid of Tongue here, but he's going to be accosted by the remainder of the Australian roster. And now at 99%. They're going to retake this control, and New Zealand won't have much to work with. Sign tries to find the punch, but Eat You Up is able to shrug that one off and keep jogging. On the point is Joker. Trying to go for the knock-up here. Not really much to be said, though. And New Zealand are just going to come in with as much stall as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's just desperation mode right now for New Zealand, just trying to flip the point back, but it does not look good. I mean, August, he'll get taken out. You have Sign coming back in. He will get eliminated there at the end by Eat You Up, and that'll be the point for Australia. So Australia will take round number 1 here on Lijiang Tower. I wonder what the next point will be. So we jump into it. So, okay, so you will be able to play some Pharah here. So I wonder if either team decides to do it, whether you have a Color Hex play the Pharah for New Zealand like we saw in the last match. It looks like, though, knowing the opposition, both teams very strong. Like you mentioned, you're going to play the meta. They know each other is probably going to play Double Shield Reaper Doom. So Sim TPs out, saves the Lucio speed boost, then get to the point.
I mean, for example, Australia's coaches hail from the Boston Uprising and from Talon Esports, respectively. They actually gave up their 7th player spot to get face here, to make sure that they actually had all their coaching staff that they would need. New Zealand is obviously demonstrated they understand the matter quite well themselves. It's now about execution. Bit of early damage here on the front lines, and it'll be about CKM and Sign as they look for early pickoffs here. No rocket punch connection. CKM pulls the plug. Trill very low right now. Need to keep that front line up and standing. New Zealand, they see this. They actually push up. They know that Trill was low on health, so they get ahead of his shield and take him down awfully quick. Another great opening here from New Zealand.
Yeah, it's incredibly smart. As soon as they see Trill get low, like you mentioned, they push right on through. And you want to do that, you get the Orisa out of the way, right? Orisa has such high survivability with Fortify, the shield timings, also Sigma Shield as well, aiding into that, and then also great deterrent to the Doomfist. So you get Trill out of the equation. They can't really stop your attack because they don't have the halt to be able to do that. Sign will take out CKM at the beginning. So
Sign is definitely winning in that head-to-head match.
Crushing it, yeah.
Tongue now going to push in. Coalescence. Sign drops in. It's all about this man. And Australia just getting completely dominated there. Noxious, obviously, coach of New Zealand, hails from Sydney Drop Bears, so like there are a lot of interconnections between these teams, and this is like
look how far away.
It's an insane grudge match to have so early on in this World Cup.
Look at Trill's ultimate charge and compare to Joker, Ryan. I mean, it just shows how quickly these fights have gone in New Zealand's favor and how heavy-handed it has been. As Trill has to drop down here, but look, he's getting assaulted from every angle by the Reaper and the Doom.
Australia really trying to focus on getting rid of Sign, but Color Hex was actually the first one to fall. CKM's able to deal with him. Eat You Up, just going to have to skirt around the statue there. But Australia win the fight out in the open, and New Zealand don't have a chance to rotate back to the point.
Yeah, I think they may have gotten a little bit too aggressive there, New Zealand. So they had Color Hex and Sign both drop down when Trill came in. And they try to get him from opposite angles, and then I believe it's Color Hex who gets picked off first. And you lose your Reaper, your Doom goes back out low, you use the Supercharger to try and keep things going, but it's not enough. So now Australia with the point. Some ultimates to use here as well. This could easily turn in Australia's favor.
Big seismic slam to start the fight from Sign, though. It is the sound barrier now, which is basically obligatory in the face of that kinetic, sort of gravitic flux. So it's going to be a sound barrier from Eat You Up, and Color Hex tries to cut through as much of that as he can, but the damage, well, it's already done. Plies, Joker, and Sign already had fallen. Color Hex not in a position to stall here as New Zealand are not in control of the point, and that fight will put Australia back on even footing.
Even footing. I mean, they're going to potentially pass New Zealand in terms of
both support
point percentage. both support ults, supercharger here, so really good ultimate advantage for Australia in this next fight coming up. You'll have the sound barrier to get through the Gravitic Flux, Color Hex with the Death Blossom. I mean, sure, maybe something big happens, but sound barrier should come out. Now they're going to use Coalescence as well.
They actually used sound barrier and Coalescence at the same time. Tongue maybe could have held off the Coalescence. He knew Unto would have to sound barrier inside the Flux. Color Hex is now going to teleport straight forward onto the point. Immediately it's a Wraith Walk to reposition. He's keeping tabs on IHU up at all times though. He could probably go for a later flank or just wait for a regroup here. Australia gifted enough a hold, but both of their support ultimates were forced out.
Now for Australia, you have nothing to work with. Color Hex holds on his Death Blossom. How scared are you of that? I think they just need to farm up this Coalescence of August, right? You farm up the Coalescence, you then have Supercharger as well, and you're in a good spot to push out of that, right? Death Blossom, Coalescence, you can make a play.
Oh, Trill's playing a dangerous game, so far forward. Very clever from New Zealand to leave that last fight without feeding more ult percentage, but they have to take the point now. Each up and CKM still standing. DPS is able to do work, but the shield is set up, the bunker is erected, and New Zealand will be able to recap.
And it's a pretty standard play there from New Zealand. So Jungle just sits on the speed boost portion of Lucio, doesn't provide any healing. They get August from like 80% to 100 of the Coalescence and push in. The next fight kicking off pretty quick.
Okay, Tongue tries to take down the Supercharger with the Coalescence, but he gives his life up to it. He subjects himself to an accretion from Plies. The teams do get the trade, but you see how much Australia valued getting rid of the Supercharger. You have to hope it's not going to be their undoing now. Gravitic Flux, but the sound barrier was there to protect them from it, and New Zealand still stand tall. Each up in CKM back to spawn, and well, the rest of their teammates are going to follow, but Australia don't leave themselves much time. They're getting staggered on the pushback.
Oh, and it's bad. I mean, they lose Unter there. As now you have the Gravitic Flux. Sage just kind of walk in as you're going to have CKM get a touch. It's going to be very brief, though, as New Zealand trying to even this up.
Oh, man, the Kiwis looking good. They really timed that last fight well. Tongue removed by Sinus. He drops now. And it'll be clean up here with Trill to fall. And Australia couldn't get there in 6. They had to go one at a time. New Zealand had that one on lock. Just waiting out the fight. They forced Australia to layer their support ultimates, and then they get to sit back and wait for them to come. It's going to be one apiece here on Lijiang Tower now, and it is heating up.
It's a big map. In a match this close, that we think will be this close, right? You know, taking that first map definitely gives you a lot of momentum going through the remainder of the series. So see if the teams decide to stay on the Reaper Doom. This is probably the point that you can see Pharah the most. So right now we have CKM and Color Hex both hovering over the Pharah. I don't think you'll see Tracer, to be honest, but I mean,
as much as she's had a quality of life buff,
yeah,
you still have to deal with shields and a reasonable amount of crowd control.
I mean, Boops, Moira pretty effective against Tracer, right? Just being a nuisance.
Yep. It's hard to burst her down.
Yeah.
She's constantly getting life back with the right clicks.
A Doom Pharah is something we see quite, I don't want to say quite often, but it's usually like a composition that works, right? A lot of spam damage, the Doom comes in.
That's a huge knockup.
Yeah, I mean, a big punch there almost was able to take some players out.
Oh, okay. CKM lines it up well. Color Hex was trying to go to work on his back line, but he had his eye on the prize. I think CK realized he got hit by something. He's got no idea what it was.
But he just found out the Widow's around. But
yeah.
I don't think they know exactly where. Oh, Punk is able to take out the Widow.
You have to switch this Widow now, right?
You would think.
You don't have control of the point. CKM has to keep his head down, in fairness, but it doesn't really give them much power to break these shields, and Sign switches over to the Doomfist.
Well, you see the Widow, right? Widow Pharah, you know you have an advantage, taking out the tanks on the other side, so you would just push straight through of your Australia, right? Just a few rockets over towards Color Hex to deter him from taking the Pharah battle, then spam the rockets down at the tanks, and push on forward with the Doomfist. So you kind of need to have Sign come over with the Doomfist now.
Slow push here from New Zealand, but they set up on the point. Coalescence here from both of the Moiras, and each Erupt's going to go down first. Going to manage to keep the front line up as well. More importantly, Plies is going to be able to push up a little bit more in that Sigma and look for accretions behind Trill's shield. New Zealand now haven't managed to cap the point back quite yet. It looks like Unter was lingering a little bit on the point. One of the supports from Australia, but they back out. And Matt, looking at this, it's hard not to think that Color Hex and Sign don't have the upper hand in this DPS matchup.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think with the way it's gone thus far, absolutely. I think Sign's Doomfist has been very strong, and then Color Hex, obviously, Overwatch League player. last year. We saw him with the Mei in the last series, and the Pharah is one of his best heroes, right? So, see Australia making their way towards the point now. You could supercharge her to open it up. Probably just forces out Valkyrie at best, yeah.
Yeah, Barrage comes in.
It is.
It's going to be just the one for CKM, though, and Color Hex gets him a little bit better. Resurrect here now for Punk, and Australia going to try and stay in the fight, but it's not enough just to stall out and hang around on this point. They need a clean win with that supercharger. Plop down. There's not much to be done for Australia once more. They will have to hack it up.
They have to back out because the supercharger comes in a little bit later, so more supercharger there for New Zealand. This will be both teams using Coalescence here. As you did have Sign dropping, so you're going to try and fight this.
Gravitic Flux, Coalescence there just to give him a little bit of an extra edge, and Ichiwap is able to line Plies up when he comes in with the Meteor Strike. Jungle does not want to be here. Punk runs him down, and Australia going to be able to win out that fight, even though New Zealand had some ultimates to work with. They're going to save especially him.
I mean, Mitch, they can take this back rather quickly, and I don't want to say easy. It's never easy, but you know, you have the Gravitic Flux. Gravitic Flux plus Meteor Strike is enough damage to take some players out. No Lucio's out here, so you don't have like a sound barrier to protect you.
It's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sigma is more lethal against Pharah Mercy comps, even though that might not really make sense considering he doesn't really interact with either of them very much. But there's no sound barrier to protect you from that Gravitic Flux. Sign goes in. And Trill is a little low here. They're waiting on it a little bit now. Plies is going to let it go, but they've already lost Sign. They really needed him to be able to combo with it. I thought they'd Meteor Strike into Gravitic Flux and at least try and secure a kill. But Tung now is going to be able to let that Coalescence go, and New Zealand may have let a crucial fight slip through their fingers.
I think Sign just blew all his cooldowns and used Meteor Strike, and they were not in a position to use Flux. And you just cannot... I mean, with a great ultimate combo like that, no support ultimates on the other side to stop it. You cannot let that opportunity get away.
It's go time for New Zealand now. If the Kiwis want to take this first map, it's going to have to be on the back of this Coalescence. Tung's already used here, so that will be an unanswered one. But that is about what New Zealand have to work with. Color Hex needs to build up that barrage awfully fast. CKM and Tung are down. They're both... Okay, with the support missing on the side of Australia, this is absolutely doable. New Zealand now work their way in. The Coalescence starts the fight off with them, and Color Hex finds two and saves the barrage, Matt. Meteor Strike here, used by Ichiwap, and gets absolutely nothing done. Again, have Australia just let them walk in.
So one fight here, pretty much to determine the point. Color Hex with the Barrage, you'll have Barrage plus Supercharger here, and Valkyrie, a huge advantage for New Zealand, as IHO's going to go Widow, just to try and get a pick here on the Color Hex, and just a little bit of a Hail Mary. Now he goes over to the Doom, so gave up. You know, didn't have any charge because he just used Meteor Strike. Try to get a pick, but Supercharger on the way in. They don't want to push directly into this. They got to touch.
They got to go. It's 99% and counting now. CKM's going to work his way in from the window, but he needs to find direct hits. Color Hex goes for the barrage. It leaves him a little bit vulnerable, but it's a trade out in DPS as Ichiwap goes down. CKM still unanswered from this window, though, but there needs to be more damage. They bring Ichiwap back into the fight, but they lose Tung now. It's just the Mercy to keep Australia alive via healing, but CKM, he finds Plies. The Sigma's now off the plate, and Ichiwap's still free to look for these picks on the Doomfist. Joker's knocked skyward. CKM gets in another one. Trill is out of the picture here, but the DPS are still standing. It sidewalks headfirst into a barrage. Color Hex straight through the window is able to find the pick on the Pharah here, but Oasis is just going to fade here on the point. They're going to make their way back in. New Zealand have the Pharah Mercy coming out of pressure down this point. Punk has to switch to the Wrecking Ball to try and stay in the mix here, and a Coalescence comes from Australia, but is it too late? Tung just needs to touch the point right now. He's forced away, even while using that key ultimate. New Zealand have to play as the numbers on the point here, and Punk's trying to work around that Orisa shield as best he can, but he's knocked out of it. Concussive Blast from Color Hex subjects him to all the damage, and Trill's Supercharge has already been picked up. The Tracer switch for Ichiwap, the Comfort pick now for the returning Australian, but it's not enough. CKM gets taken down with a Rocket Punch, and New Zealand have the numbers. Unbelievable retake in that fight. New Zealand start off by playing the ultimate economy game well. They managed to keep control the point.
I mean, look, they had the ultimate economy. You know, they had the ultimate advantage when Australia was pushing the point at the end. They kind of just beefed their ultimates. But then you had Color Hex and August on the point alone, right? And Color Hex is able to pick up 1. August on the Moira takes out 2. And then Australia is in a tough position because they want to deny players coming across the bridge because they don't want to allow more players to get on the point. But they need to actually contest the point because they don't control the point. So they had just, I believe it was Trill at that point on the Wrecking Ball, just swinging around, trying to contest point. Players coming across, you didn't really get to see the coalescence that came from Australia because you're using it to try and deter players, weaken them as they come across the bridge. It's just not enough, and New Zealand steals map number 1.
When you feel like Australia in a position to win that until they lose Trill in that last fight, right? That's that's what really allows New Zealand's DPS especially to work their way back in. You know, Color Hex played from the outside of that central building for much of the fight. Finding a pick on CKM with an air shot whilst playing through that window was just a huge turnaround, and then a lot of pressure gets put on Ichu up. He has to switch to Tracer, you know, just to try and make his way back on in.
I think it's the damage dealers for New Zealand that really separated it for me. I think, you know, Sign and Color Hex just played massive there. Map number 1. I think now, you know, as the series moves on, I think you're going to see that their hero pool is able to just cause a lot of issues, like we saw in the game with Austria, right? Now, Austria, we do not hold to the same, I guess, standard as like Australia, right? In terms of like how tough of a competition they are. But still, you know, you have Color Hex who can play so many different heroes. The Mei very effective in this meta as well. Mei Bastion type of setups. You know, the Reaper Doom, they have a strong Reaper Doom. He's great on Pharah. So looks to be a pretty good meta here for New Zealand.
Seems pretty comfortable for them there.
And that 4-0 is actually the 3-0 from the last series that we saw, plus
that's
that
right.
map.
So that's a map count for them.
Overall map count for them, yeah. So
Australia 0-1 because obviously this is their first match. They had a first round bye, so this is actually their first match. And yeah, it looks like they're going to be taking a little bit of time to warm up. And this would, I mean, I'd have to say this would be the first World Cup where we've seen New Zealand probably put a stronger foot forward than Australia earlier on.
And by the way, with I'm sure you've seen with a lot of the brackets and whatnot, and like some buys being in them. The buys were determined via previous World Cup placements and performance and whatnot.
Quite a complex little system, the seeding.
Yeah, so it was seeded. The prelims, there was a seeding structure to it, and then the top seeds obviously got a bye. So just wanted to clarify that for anybody who is wondering how things ended up shaking out the way they did.
Ichu up, really interesting to see him back in this roster. I don't know if you noticed, I only found this out recently, but he spent a fair bit of time over with Shanghai Dragons Academy team, Team CC, because he does speak Chinese.
Really?
So, yeah, that's right. So he's multilingual. So he played over there for quite some time, but I think he ended his stint with that team in like April of this year.
Right.
I don't think he's currently signed to like an Australian contenders team. So, I mean, obviously they probably recognise that, you know, he's a key DPS talent and has still been keeping himself sharp. He's just been playing in a different region. So that's why when I saw the Tracer, I'm like, man, this is like super 2017 like throwbacks. He played that so much. You know, but like Australia, there's a lot of depth to the roster, but you have to question sometimes a little bit the coordination, especially in that last round. You know, when you're seeing Coalescence and the Sound Barrier getting layered like that, even though Coalescence is easy to build up pretty quickly, New Zealand really astutely identified Australia that blew both their support ults, so they pull out of the fight. They only lose one player ultimately.
Yeah, I thought New Zealand had way better ultimate usage than Australia during that, and I kind of expected Australia to come in and be a little bit sharper. But I think having that match in the morning, although it's not a close match, definitely helps. It warms you up a little bit. You get in the rhythm of a game. Like I think being in the rhythm of an actual game is something that's very difficult to explain at like the professional level. But you can't replicate it in scrims, right? You talk about it a lot. It's hard to get that energy going, especially like earlier in the day. You haven't played yet. And it doesn't really, like, for a team like Australia, it probably has not set in that this is, like, a win-or-go-home type of scenario. Like, it's a very odd type of scenario for a competitor to be in, especially with, like, the format and the way it is. So
maybe there's a sense that they would have preferred not to have a bye, because so even though New Zealand wins...
Yeah, you would rather have the warm-up, right? You'd have if you were given the option, you would rather have played an easier opponent in round 1 than had a bye.
So do you think New Zealand, even though it was a one-sided match, it's still an adequate warm-up?
It gets you, yeah. Like I'm sure, like Johnny would understand it. Like you get a feeling as a competitor just warming up and playing a game, and you just get into the flow of the day, and like you kind of understand the scenarios right a bit better. I think when you're just kind of rocking up, having some breakfast, it's really easy to kind of talk about win or go home type of scenarios and be prepared, but once you get in the game goes quick, right? You know, the game's moving at speed a lot. Like, you have to focus really hard, and it's just you can't just muster that energy up and just get into it right away. It takes a build-up time. So having that match in the morning for New Zealand is probably pretty big.
So if those of you are just maybe joining or just sort of getting your head around how our World Cup is working this year, today's our preliminary matches, which are, you know, first to 3 series, and they are single elimination over 5 different brackets. Not obviously there are 5 teams, as Matt pointed out earlier, that have already sort of qualified into later days of this tournament. So, you know, teams like Australia, New Zealand, and you know, Denmark and such are fighting for their chance to stand among those already seeded teams sort of later on in this tournament. We're on 5 different streams right now. Not all of them are currently sort of broadcasting games. I think it's myself and Matt, and also ZP and Avast are currently covering.
Yeah.
And they're on twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders, so you can go and check them out. And yeah, look, guys, we can't see Twitch chat, so thank you guys for joining us. If you got anything to add or you want to say something, feel free to tweet us, and you know we'll make sure we get to your comments and have a look at them at some point.
That's where you can find us on Twitter.
Yeah, feel free to let us know, especially if my mic's clipping again. That's definitely something that you're welcome to inform me of. But map number 2 is going to be Eichenwalde this series. So it seems like the map pool is actually almost preset as we come in. And these teams have an understanding. So before the map starts, they're sort of...
this is, I believe, the opposite map set than we got in our first match. So our first match had Hollywood for game number 2. This time we'll get a good game on Eichenwalde. So, again, a good Pharah map here for either team, right? I think Color Hexo has shown very strong Pharah. If I do trust the overlay, Australia will be on defense first.
Do you trust it? I'm sure we do. Obviously, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, New Zealand, I mean, we talk a bunch about Color Hex and Cyan, but, you know, you've got multiple players on this roster. You know, Jungle plays for New Zealand Warriors. You've got 2 Mind Freak players here who were in the grand final of Contenders Australia Melbourne Esports Open. So, you know, players with a fair bit of experience in their own right. You know, on the Australian side of things, you know, Punk is in Boston Uprising Academy. Trill, as you know, from the Dallas Fuel. Tung is actually Jungle's teammate on the Warriors, and Unter is Cyan's teammate on Team Order. So that's what I'm saying. Like across the field, there are teammates.
I'm always impressed with Australia and New Zealand. How they're obviously it's a smaller population, but in every game, like shooter-wise, they're always able to have really strong teams. I mean, Call of Duty always had strong Australian, New Zealand presence.
Mind Freak.
Yeah, Overwatch as well. So good to see Australians repping out. As New Zealand on offense here, they will go with the Bastion setup. So May Bastion, they're going to force them out of the choke here.
So New Zealand will try and work their way around it. They've actually run into Ichiwap, who can't stake here. So Australia tried to set up a more of a point-oriented defense by the looks of things, but they've allowed New Zealand to gain a lot of ground here.
Yeah, they want to wrap high ground, so they want to go above the point here on the high ground. Best angles for the Bastion to play at. And you see they have to try and fight this, as CKM does get a pick, but...
New Zealand are missing a shielder. That could be a big issue.
The positioning here for New Zealand's great.
They can get to Sign, though. They can access him, but I think that was an attempt at a rising uppercut on the Bastion. I don't think he was really hit by it. CKM, oh my. I think he tried to touch the ground, and he may have been caught inside a halt.
Wait, Punk was trying to use his kinetic grasp to eat it up and then got killed.
Yeah. Did not go well at all for Australia there. A little bit of a weird sequence of plays. I couldn't tell if CKM was actually got frozen as he tried to line signed up, but they couldn't get the Bastion.
And I'm telling you, man, like I think you're going to see more teams go to this comp as the weekend goes on. Like the May Bastion is an easy comp to coordinate, a very difficult comp to stop. Like it can get snowbally pretty quick. So Australia, they'll go May Reaper. So this is a counter to this potentially. As it seems like there is a fight going up here on the high ground. Yep.
Cyan's pretty safe sat inside that immortality field, and Australia again they rotate over to the cart. Now this will force a rotation from the Bastion, more importantly, but Cyan comes in already with an ultimate. Tung just got smashed as he came around the corner, and Cyan now can push up a little bit more. New Zealand are playing with an extremely high amount of confidence. Australia are trying to force rotations, but they themselves are getting caught.
It's a really nice setup there from New Zealand. I think this is like probably worst case scenario for Australia at the start of the series. I know it's difficult for both of us to say being Australian, but this is tough as I'm an honorary Australian now.
You are okay. Well, yeah, tell that to immigration, bro.
No.
You never seen border security?
Yeah,
I mean, I hope you get on that show one day. Sorry, I'm actually Australian.
New Zealand can just blizzard this. Yeah, they have to. Australia has to get aggressive and play on cart because they need the progress to stop. So you can blizzard this and then.
Okay. Color Hex gets hit with a nano boost. Gravitic Flux is good, but there's not follow up there. Signed takes a hit as he drops to the ground, but Australia having a lot of problems getting rid of him. Okay, so they got rid of that.
They want this fight bad.
That is a fat biotic grenade coming in from jungle, though. Eats you up. It does not care. Rolls straight over the top with the Death Blossom. Joker's forced to back away, and this is quite a pivotal moment. Australia lose a couple of fights. They try to force rotations now. New Zealand have to come to them. You see Sign immediately switching off. He's not going to mess around with the Bastion here. Australia get to make the most of this high ground and also this May wall. If New Zealand try and get cute, if they try and rotate through the castle or through one of those side angles, again, they could be cut in half.
It was a must-win fight for Australia. I mean, you lose a few players, you double down, you use your sound barrier. I mean, that is a...
Yeah, you could tell that they knew they had to win it.
That is a massive waste if you lose that fight, so...
Okay, May wall not doing a heck of a lot there, maybe providing a wall for Eichenwalde to knock someone into, but the Blizzard gets rid of the supercharger on its own, and New Zealand were forced to push towards Australia just to not get frozen up. In doing so, they subject themselves to Trill, just sat there with the barrier in front.
He's going to
Australia
go
were very comfortable there.
CKM's going to go switch to Doom, so you see they've switched to Reaper Doom. You want to mirror that, so you'll go back, get CKM, the speed boost, back onto the Doomfist, then get him back in the fight.
May needs time to freeze you. Doomfist will not give you that time. He will just wreck you. The range that May is strong at is also the range that Reaper is strong at, and he can usually pick you up before you're able to freeze him up too. Tongue is down. Color Hex already able to find him on that high ground playing. Again, here's another forced rotation from Australia coming in over the top. They get rid of Color Hex early on, but the shield's already busted up, and that supercharger doesn't stand for very long.
And they have control of the cart, right? As Unja got on the cart there for a second, just trying to stop the progress. But we'll see if Australia is able to get a touch in another fight. I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to be able to make a play for this.
They might get a touch here over the top. Eichenwalde's forced immediately into Wraithwalk, but New Zealand can just choke the right side of the point.
Yeah, but he got on the cart and then had to get off for a split second. They had nobody there to come in. So they end up using their coalescence there, Australia, and they never actually get the fight.
But you know what? You can see just how much Australia value high ground, right? The way that they rotated over the bridge there to try and start a fight against New Zealand, but then they drop down immediately. They give up the high ground. They throw the supercharger down, but their shields get blown up instantly.
So now we move in as the payloads actually move through some of the harder portion of the map to get it through. Gravitic Flux here from Australia to open it up. Nothing to counter this here for New Zealand. So they lived through it though, yeah.
Hunter doubles back to make sure that Sign can't get an easy kill. Throws the sound barrier down sort of after the fact here. And then now they're able to push in. Another important place to win a fight. Oh, Color Hex gets interrupted by the accretion. Told to have a seat. CKM's going to drop now in. And the fight continues. Australia will push New Zealand out now. Look, and they keep the coalescence. They keep the supercharger ready.
I think New Zealand, though, you got what you wanted. Supercharger, Gravitic Flux, sound barrier. They don't have a Flux. You can sound barrier through, like, let's say, Coalescence and the Death Blossom. They have a supercharger in the play, but the Gravitic Flux could be huge.
New Zealand trying to push on the right side. Australia pushed out very far here. Playing over the broken wall. Pie's going to go now for the Gravitic Flux. It only looks like the Sigma's caught, and Sign goes over the edge. And that might be a pause, because it's possible there was something tech-wise that may have caused that. And so we'll be chilling. But you know what? There's no camera to switch to now in the pause screen, so you can look at this.
So you look at this. So this is the bracket that we are currently in. Did Denmark Chinese Taipei already happen? I believe Jaws and Leg Day were doing that one, correct?
I mean, you can do what I did and yell across the room and ask about the result.
I'm waving them down. Who won the match that you guys did? Denmark won 3-1. Okay, so now
Chinese Taipei and Denmark both had buys going into that match. So that was actually their first match of the day. So after Chinese Taipei, I mean, single elimination. So we won't be seeing much more of Chinese Taipei here.
Well, actually, we won't be seeing them again.
I mean, I might see them in person. I might be like, hey, what's going on? Hope you're enjoying your BlizzCon. They have the entire weekend now. I mean, BlizzCon isn't even officially open.
Yeah.
So this is obviously before the storm, if you'll excuse the pun. So Australia win that fight out. New Zealand will just go for a reset there. And yeah, the winner of this match goes up against Denmark. That's a fearsome opponent, Matt. Denmark have consistently shown Great strength at group stages over the years.
And I'm not sure if that's the entire group, but I think that may be to potentially get out of the group, right?
That's right. That is the final of this A bracket.
That would be a decider of the A bracket,
that's right.
Yes. So, no groups here today, just, well, smaller brackets, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, no real second chances, hey, Matt.
No.
I mean, to go, you run a gauntlet of top teams. So much talent out here this year, and what a great start to the fight here for New Zealand. And they get a push over. Australia want to take a fight pretty far forward, so they have a chance at risk. Eichenwalde can't get staggered here. This cannot happen. He's got to come in a little bit later than the rest of his team here, which means Australia are going to have to give an extra bit of ground.
They have to take that fight, though. I mean, if Australia plays further back around this corner, I mean,
well,
they are screwed. They do not.
They never
get
had a
another
choice.
Attempt. Yeah.
They lose 2 players in the blink of an eye. Eichenwalde's back now, so fortunately they got the spawn advantage. Plies gets knocked up here. Sound barrier comes out in response, so no one on New Zealand is really bothered by that at all. Oh, Punk tried to go there for a kinetic grasp, but he is knocked senseless by Sign. CKM at least is able to reciprocate. The Doomfists have both drawn blood in this fight. Joker is removed and Australia can recover. Tung went for a coalescence on the later part of that fight, but crucially, Hunter holds onto his sound barrier. Plies is close to a flux.
So now this is Australia's game to lose, right? You have sound barrier, you have meteor strike. They do not have anything to work with here for New Zealand.
Is there any reason for Australia to lose a fight here with the old economy what it is?
Not really. I mean, it'd be very difficult unless a
big death blossom from Color Hex, maybe.
Maybe, but like you rarely see that.
Okay, well, CKM gets rid of August early on in the fight. Not ideal. There was a chance he could have gotten his coalescence during this fight, but now that's off the table. Meteor strike in, CKM trying to make the difference, but look at that. All of the Death Blossom was eaten up by the kinetic grasp, but CKM is chilling up on the chandelier, trying to do, I guess, a little bit of an architect, but it don't matter. Australia are able to hold New Zealand off. Kiwis get an excellent start on offense. Australia managed to claw things back, prevent them from finishing the match.
I mean, that's the thing. I think it's good for Australia, right? You started out really slow. New Zealand's taking it to you, and then I think they've started to wake up a little bit in this match. They're holding them on defense. So you can see the furthest distance to payload gun. That is where the golden box of victory will be for Australia. So what does New Zealand do on defense? If I was New Zealand, if I was the coach of New Zealand or even a player here, I would probably go Farah Bastion. We've seen that on Eichenwalde in the past, where you can set up on the high ground on defense right above the point. Very difficult to access that as the attacking team, especially when the Farah is putting down the damage. So we've seen them play Farah, we've seen them play Bastion at a high level. I think that would be a good composition for New Zealand to run here on D.
This is
honestly like it's almost like I'm in their comps. I mean, it is unfair.
just this 5-head play from Matt Morello. I have to say, you know, as an Aussie myself, you'd understand, Matt, being an Aussie. This is actually pretty huge to see these two teams play each other in the World Cup. You know, the saddest part is that one of them will have to go home early. That's you know, would have been great to see.
How sad will you be if it's New Zealand that goes home early?
Not as sad, but look, I mean. Despite our differences, both countries are pretty close, and that's evidenced by the fact that a lot of these guys are teammates on either team, right?
Right.
We stick to our own a little bit, so it's a shame to see either of these teams go. But after the Rugby World Cup, Australia needs a little bit of a pick-me-up, you know what I mean? That was brutal.
So the idea with the Farah Bastion on defense, like I mentioned, Bastion setting up on the high ground, Farah deters the push up to the high ground via just spamming rockets, right? You see the high ground Bastion set up. They know what's happening now. Going to kinetic grasp some of the rockets away. They're going to try and access this high ground. So, ooh, actually, Color Hex got slept there. They actually are able to get him to...
Yeah, no,
he got stunned. He got accretion. Sorry,
he got accreted.
Yeah.
That is... Oh, my God. And now the rest of New Zealand are sitting there like, we're in deep trouble. We have 4 players. We're missing our Mercy. The Farah's not here. Punk says, that's right, boys. You're coming. Watson Matilda with me. They're going to push over the top. August already loses that immortality field, and New Zealand get absolutely crushed. Australia trying to bring things back in this series, and they honestly don't take any prisoners as they push here on a point 8.
It's like we didn't see it, and then I saw the little the icon. I was like, wait, what? And then it had to have been a halt plus an accretion set up there from Australia.
I mean, look, it's honestly, if you can land the halt, the accretion is almost guaranteed there. So.
And because of the positioning of Farah Mercy, if you get the Farah, the Mercy is pretty much a free kill at that point. So you're able to deal with that rather quickly, as that is a huge opening from Australia. So now they're going to try and do the same thing here. New Zealand, though, hold that high ground, and then also have the Pharah lurking with the Mercy.
A little bit harder to close the gap on the Bastion based on where Signed is set up. You can get to him, but you have to cross a little bit more of an open field to do so.
I think it's much harder on the other point, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but they have the May. Australia have the May to block off that choke, and they can walk up inside the hunting lodge. So
Colorhex got stunned again.
This time he's able to shrug it off, though. Don't know many people who could take a rock to the face and get up and go. The thing about Pharah is the stun, the short stun only begins when Pharah touches the ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't begin when she gets hit. So she drops, slowly, and then is stunned for that brief period of time.
They try and coalesce, and Tongue gets taken out right away, so you don't have that.
They get rid of the Bastion here. Now there's going to be a barrage. Colorhex needs to salvage it. Salvage he does. CKM, Unter, and Punk all get rolled by the barrage that comes in. They're able to bring Sign back. That's a huge boost for New Zealand now, and they are, honestly, they're set up now again for the same sort of play.
Well, what Australia needs to do is force them from the high ground to the low ground, then get the Blizzard. I don't know how you do that, though, right? Like, you can May-wall them off, but they have to know that the Blizzard would come, so you just wait it out.
Blizzard for CKM. If he can get New Zealand to drop down, that ultimate becomes much more relevant. Right now, he's sort of trying to yeet it at long range. It's not easy to do. Eater up waiting. Kinetic Grasp also definitely something he needs to be careful of. Here's the Blizzard, though. They get Plies to drop down. That seems to be enough to satisfy them and say, okay, this is enough for the Blizzard. Eater up wants New Zealand to drop off the high ground so he can then take it and come in. Oh, great Maywall. They're going to need that, but it's not going to last very long here. Gravitic Flux. Can Punk finish the kill on Sign? No, he stays up. The Immortality Field is there. It's up to Ichu up now to do something about this bunker, but he can't get rid of them either. Oh, my. Sign. That is a filth. Drop straight down. Ichu up was hoping to be able to make the play, and he gets a rocket to the face.
He's like, take that, dog.
Jeez.
So Punk actually lives up the Bastion and gives him a little bit of better line of sight, because the Maywall was pretty decent there. From CKM.
But it didn't last long at all, right? With the amplification matrix, you ideally want to get the wall in between the Bastion and the matrix, but with where it was placed by August, it wasn't possible.
So they probably don't think the Bastion's going to be set up here on the high ground. On that high ground. They probably think he's still up here on the bridge. So this will actually caught Australia off guard a little bit. I'm interested how they play around it. Coming out here into the open space, look at the damage that the Pharah can do, right? So, but going through this small choke, the Bastion's just going to farm.
Another barrage. Okay, so Mayball's up. There's no matrix here. So look at Trill. He's going to get under the little ledge and they get rid of August straight away. No Immortality Field's going to be available and they can shrug off the damage from Colorhex with the Coalescence. They do lose Unter here, but Ichu up is going to go upstairs and try and put some pressure here now on side. He needs healing. He doesn't have any. What? He comes out of Wraith form with 1 HP. I guess he couldn't be seen. Tongue couldn't send up any healing. Just give him a little bit of a spritz, bro.
But they haven't moved the cart at all.
No, they have to get rid of this bunker setup, and now the reinforcements are returning. Colorhex is back in the fight. Payload is now moving, but still, there's an Immortality Field on that high ground. What a bizarre purchase. Is this Junkenstein's revenge?
What is this?
Side.
I mean, now they finally deal with the Bastion, but it has gone on for so long. I mean, this push started with almost 3 minutes on the clock. We're down to 1 minute and 40. They use a Blizzard here as well.
If Colorhex didn't hit the ground, he would have fallen off. He got hit with an accretion there. And if he'd gone down the pit, he wouldn't have been able to recover from that. Still removed by Ichu up anyway. Bit of stall here from Jungle. Finally is removed. Tongue takes him out of the picture. And gets rid of his teammate, and Australia will sit with 2 minutes 55 on the clock.
If you're New Zealand, do you stay on this Bastion? My gut tells me I probably would.
Tank. You have Tank,
You have Tank. And I think also the Bastion's just good at just wasting time. I mean, with how long that previous fight took, with the high ground here, potential here for New Zealand, you know, you're looking at like 1-2 fights here. You win this one, you hold on to some of those ultimates, you're in a good spot.
Ichu up couldn't get away. They threw up a wall. They halted him back.
Not good.
No, Australia will just try and get as much progress as they can here and just try and break line of sight from the Bastion for as long as they possibly can. Supercharger is coming up here for Trill. Joker has one of his own, so this next fight, or at least when they manage to bring Ichu up back, it's going to be incredibly messy. Colorhex did get hit with an accretion there, but he dropped down behind a shield.
Mitchell, I mean, Ant Matrix, Supercharger, tank mode here for New Zealand.
Australia maybe should set their mind to forcing ultimates and maybe not using too many of their own. If they've done the ult tracking homework, they have to think that this is pretty slanted against them.
And they have
Supercharger's out.
Yeah, and the hard part is they're deciding which way to go because Colorhex is trying to split them off with a Maywall. So They're going to opt to run all the way to the other side. Maybe try and force the Bastion down.
They don't want this to happen, though. They have to stay together. Now they've got to commit fully, but Trill just gets riddled with holes as Joker and Sign wait for them to push up. Australia use the Supercharger. They use the Gravitic Flux. They use the Coalescence there. That's not what you want to see. Well, here's what happened, Matt. When they got hit with the May wall, they panicked and they pushed up.
But I mean, now after investing all of those ultimates, what's your plan in the next fight? Sound barrier available, but you need that for the Flux, right? You're going to be walking into Blizzard Coalescence. They could literally, I mean, Color Hex could just use the Blizzard. You know you have to play on cart. They're going to have to play group together to make a push.
You still have to get rid of the Immortality field that's going to be so far away behind an Orisa barrier. How do you get this card up and break line of sight for long enough to get close? I mean, there might be another fight after this one, but this is for all intents and purposes
they walled them off as well.
Important. That's fine, though. CKM's going to use that Ice Block. Accretion hit him. Oh, he wasn't protected. The shield wasn't quite placed where it needed to be. Australia have to go now, but I don't think they know what to do. They actually go for the sound barrier before the Gravitic Flux comes out. This is huge for Blyze. Now he's going to use it. A big connection on that ultimate. Immortality field is taken down, but Trill and Hunter are so low. Eichenwalde tried to go for the Death Blossom there, but Sign interrupted him with a rocket. And that take configuration. There's only 30 seconds left now, but CKM, it looks like he's on an island, trying to do it on his own. Tongue goes for the Coalescence, and the wheels are falling off for Australia. There's one last fight, and they've got nothing to work with. Yeah, you can.
They have Blizzard.
If you don't get walled off.
They have Blizzard, so you have that to work with, but still, in a scenario like this where you have to get grouped together and run really fast, it can get a little bit uncoordinated. This is when May can become a real big issue. Split a player off, and that's it.
They'd have to go into a last fight. Oh, dear. He makes sure he doesn't get halted. He's able to get away.
He touched Cart to force OT.
Again, that Sigma Shield's already taken down. The Bastion's causing so many problems. Punk tries to use Kinetic Grasp for as long as he can. That's a decent hold. It pulls them back on their side of the shield, but here's that Blizzard. Color Hex goes into Ice Block, but Eichenwalde on the high ground on his own. He's gotten rid of both August and Signed. He's gotten rid of the Bastion set up on the high ground, and Australia finally come up with the answer they need. And it's Eichenwalde, a champion from yesteryear, to step up, make the play, and make it one apiece in this series. Unbelievable.
What a play. I mean, he gets to the high ground, they're able to deal with the Bastion, and they break that hold. That did not look likely there. As New Zealand, they squandered an opportunity to go up 2-0 in the series. They are perfectly set up. The Bastion on the high ground, 20 seconds left. All they have is Blizzard, and they blow it.
If you could see Matt's face right now, you would be astounded. That realistically, that shouldn't have been able to work. The fact is, Eichenwalde was on his own on the high ground. He's dealing with both the Orisa and the Bastion setup. He gets in there. Immortality field wasn't deployed where it needed to be, clearly. And it's possible that, New Zealand thinks that, well, the fighting's going to happen on the low ground. They need to get to us first. We'll throw the Immortality field down, and then we won't need it up here necessarily. That turned out not to be the case. This series, bro, finally we get this matchup. And the first two maps are completely bonkers.
Man, New Zealand, you have to be kicking yourself there. I mean, an opportunity to go up 2-0 in a match, I think we would both agree, bias aside for you, right? I know probably Australia is the favorite in this, right? You would say Australia would be the favorite in this match.
Based on their previous performances in seeding, it's pretty hard, though. New Zealand have some obviously hugely proven talent. Okay, sure. Yeah, maybe slimly, though. Like, I don't think anyone, especially if people are watching, contenders in Australia and stuff like that, which obviously I've watched all of it, every minute, just by the way. The talent on that roster, especially how they perform domestically, makes them look like a really, really good shot. But Australia, you could say the same for, especially with Trill coming back in and the experience that he's gotten, but Color Hex is his counterpart on the other side. So, and we talked about it earlier on. Pretty scary DPS talent on New Zealand's side. Eichenwalde comes in after a brief, I will say hiatus. I might not know all the details there, so someone could feel free to correct me. And we saw CKM last year, and when he played, he was green. He was a little bit new. It was a big stage for him, a lot of pressure on him now. He's still been competing, obviously, domestically since then. But if I had to put those two up against the DPS from New Zealand, I know I'm going with New Zealand on that one. Yeah,
I mean, Color Hex, I think, alone, right, with the hero pool that he can provide, and a lot of times, people have really large hero pools, but the quality kind of dips between certain heroes, right? He can play a lot of the heroes at a high level, not just a mediocre level of this, to a mediocre level of that, and then really strong in certain areas. you know, he has like 4 to 5 legit strong heroes. Like legit strong heroes, right? Like I know his Widow's pretty good. Pharah as well, the Mei, Reaper. Like he has like, you know,
I think that's
4 or
where
5
really
important heroes in the meta.
For me, he really came onto the stage in the Overwatch League when he brought out that Widowmaker. Just some absurd mechanics, and everyone started taking notice.
For 15 minutes, yeah. Widowmaker got the 15 minutes of love this season.
Yep. Still, you know, short but sweet.
Yeah.
You remember it. You remember it even more. You know what I mean?
It's a good way to put it.
New Zealand now, so obviously the map scores are down there. So Australia go 1-1 in this series, and New Zealand, I mean, man, an elimination match between two rivals like this, you're definitely feeling the pressure. Now Australia are warmed up, though. They looked, I mean, their defense on Eichenwalde was really interesting because they allowed New Zealand to take a lot of space. Australia tried to do the rope-a-dope and get onto that bridge themselves. New Zealand see that, they get through.
If Trill and Punk don't connect with that halt accretion on a color hex for point A, like I can't stress enough how difficult that Bash and Pharah defense is to break. Getting that pick on a color hex, which also allows them to get an easy pick on the Mercy, it is game winning there for Australia. You know, because let's kind of just play it out how it normally does. They waste a minute or two there. I mean, that is the difference of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right there.
I mean, especially when they had such little time to push through the last part.
That is a New Zealand win if they break that pretty quickly. So.
This is appropriate, isn't it?
1-1, we go over to the home territory of Junkertown.
That's it. Sorry, New Zealand, you can't claim this one, mate. You guys have the nice mountains and waterfalls and a lot of sheep. We have desert. This is where we thrive, baby.
You do get good Bastion play here. Oh, and then we got Paris coming up after that. I mean,
well, I feel like that's 2 wildcard maps in a series with a lot on the line.
I believe we are in charge of the stream, so I am announcing I am going to a bathroom break after Escort. We'll have to go to commercial.
Yep.
Because I feel like this is going to be a long one. You know,
I know. I think you just need to pee.
You get a Junkertown, you get a Paris back-to-back, and this has the makings of 2 maps that we could be on for a very long time.
Saddle up, nerds. Junkertown, let's go, baby.
Saddle
let's
up,
go, dude.
nerds.
Well, I mean, it's look, there's 2 Orisas in the game, bro. Come on. I'm going to try and make the most of the Equine Sentinel while she's still in rotation. Matt didn't understand any of that.
No.
I'm sure you guys did at home, right?
No, they didn't either.
Big 5 heads?
No, they're
big
just
wrinkle brains out there.
They're finding it funny that I didn't understand it, but at the same time they don't understand it. So,
oh, gotcha.
So we're all just kind of laughing in a big circle.
I see.
We'll have New Zealand on defense here. Actually, no, New Zealand will be on offense. No, they'll be on defense. Sorry.
Are you good, bro?
No, the colors just got really be messed up there for a second.
So, Australia are obviously trying to.
I should have trusted the overlay.
They're trying to break line of sight as much as they can, getting the payload. It's almost like they expected New Zealand to almost play on the card itself, but when you are playing like this, you don't have a great chance to set up the shield, and it's a matter of time before you get picked off by a Pharah here. Spawn advantage definitely rests with the Australians, but if New Zealand can accrue small percentage in this first fight, it's going to be huge for them further down the track. Punk and Plies are both down, so both teams are missing that shield. CKM's trying to find a way to split people up here. Hitting Color Hex is a bit of a gamble, but he nails him as he comes across. That's a headshot, an important one. Now,
do you burn res on Color Hex here? No, I was right. I was absolutely correct because the overlay is messed up. Yeah, you actually.
No. I didn't say you were wrong. I just asked if you were good.
Yeah, no, I was correct. That New Zealand's on offense.
So what do you make of this, Matt? If Australia are trying to get use out of Widowmaker on defense,
like,
how long does this work for?
Why are they playing that on defense?
How long does Widow work for here?
Really, just this first point where it's so well. I mean,
or not at all.
It doesn't really work, to be honest. So. We'll see if we can get the overlay changed for you guys to make it actually make sense. But just to clarify, this is New Zealand's offense here.
I mean, that's very clever from Color Hex, man. He pushes Ichu up very early on in the fight, doesn't give the Widowmaker any space to breathe, and then he's already in a flanking position. So when Australia try and engage through the house, knowing that they don't want to get hit by the Pharah, they have to push out of the one choke. It's just too easy for him to get barrage
kills. Playing the Widow here, you can see that you're really scared of the Pharah play, but also, like, they just throw a Sigma shield in front, and then you have to move and run away. Like, what are you getting out of it if you're Australia? That'll be the first point here taken. by New Zealand. But now Australia, they switch off of the Widow, so that is the right play here. You can't play the Widow that often, or that long.
Hey, New Zealanders aren't allowed in Junkertown either. Get him out! Get him out! Joker inside the Immortality field now, and the Bastion from Signed is going to be able to benefit from that too. It's pretty comfortable. He came into this fight with tank configuration, and he's going to leverage that now. Getting rid of Tongue. They have lost Color Hex, but I mean, again, this Bastion ultimate close up. He was happy enough with that. Eichenwalde tries to close the gap, but Sign was already in sentry mode and just mows him down. 3 minutes, 57 seconds on the clock. Australia have struggled to find a foothold, man.
Even when Bastion wasn't strong and double shield didn't exist, it was still a thing on Junkertown. It's now just even stronger. CKM with the Blizzard, you can probably move the Bastion up to the high ground here, which is what they've decided to do. You probably play the Mercy like in an off angle with the Pharah here. Try and force them to use the Blizzard to move the Bastion, and then I guess your best case scenario is outlive it, heal it with an Immortality field, you know, Baptiste, and then try and resurrect. Let's say you lose one player or two, you get back to full strength.
Color Hex. Oh, there it is. It's going to be the Holding Creation, and Punk makes sure he follows up with the Hyperspheres. Going to be a tough one to resurrect now, and they double down with that Blizzard. Trill going to try and prevent the payload, of course, from advancing any further. And Jungle's missing now, so no resurrect would have been available either way. Trill does get caught in the Gravitic Flux, but on the low ground, he's able to break a lot of that line of sight, and there's shields to protect him. Once again, we see Australia struggle on that first sort of point, and eventually manage to claw back some sort of foothold. The question is, can they maintain it? Because they have some key ultimates going into the next fight. And with August switching now to Moira, he's gotten rid of the ultimate that he had coming in.
They switch everything. Jungle is off of Mercy, August over to Moira, Sign and Color Hex both swap it up. They know as soon as the Bastion doesn't work, you have to switch. No reason to commit to another fight. But now, like we mentioned on Eichenwalde, you have, well, you had a little bit of advantage, right? They were running the Mei, but now they have CKM go back to the spawn and switch to the Doom right away.
Clever from Signed. He knew Eichenwalde would be waiting for him there. He's forced a Rocket Punch to get away from the Reaper, but in the meantime, CKM gets 2 for 1. Plies and Signed. I think Signed was actually mid-Rocket Punch and got caught with a rising uppercut. Oh, he'll take that one, and he'll tell you he meant it. Australia still have this, the Death Blossom come into the next fight. With New Zealand resetting their ultimate economy, that doesn't really put them ahead at all. So they lose a fight, they don't get an advantage, and that's rough for them. That's essentially a wasted 20 to 30 seconds. And they had to do it to get rid of the Bastion, but doesn't help them now.
In that case, you're playing for really, I mean, you have to switch at that time, because otherwise, you switch a little late, you have no chance with ultimates to even make an attempt here. But they get a pick on the tongue, that is huge. So no Moira, that's all of the healing gone there.
Yeah, and also, no chance for him to build up their next coalescence in this fight. He up! Does just that. Gets himself 3. Color Hex the last one to fall to that Death Blossom, and that could have gone south real quick.
That is the worst feeling probably imaginable for New Zealand. You get a pick onto the Moira, such a high priority target right away, and you lose the fight via a large Death Blossom, which is one of the ultimates. You can dodge rather easy, eat it up, a lot of ways to get around it. That is tough for New Zealand.
Joker now back to the cart. With the rest of the August has managed to get that Coalescence. Tongue is way behind because he died early in that last fight. Eichenwalde got to the backline, no side, had no idea he was there. Eichenwalde, he's got training weights on, mate. He's been over in China, going up against the craziest compositions, the biggest cloud fiestas. He comes back here, bro, and he's unloading. This is massive. Against incredibly stellar DPS opposition, Eichenwalde looks sick.
Everybody went left there for New Zealand, and August used Coalescence in the room by the Mega Health Pack. But the damage dealers were out of line of sight, so they get no healing from the Coalescence. Obviously, Lucio can't do anything to heal outside of line of sight. So they were both weak. Both of them get taken out by Eichenwalde. He has really taken over.
Eichenwalde now gets a lot of attention. He's trying to get away with Wraithwalk, but it's unlikely that he'll be able to escape. Can Australia do something in his absence? Joker Supercharge has already been taken down. That's where Tongue sends the Coalescence. Sign wants to get rid of the Moira early, but look at that. He knew it was coming. He had the Fade available. And New Zealand now really split their focus across this fight. They start off, everyone turned towards Eichenwalde. But the real problem was the Coalescence, and I saw that tactical crouch limbering up before their round on attack.
And I think you kind of go back to what we were talking about in the pregame and after map 1 of having that series that they played this morning as an advantage for New Zealand. I think 100% that is the case. Control, very team fight oriented, right? Getting on the same page.
It's a fundamental brand of Overwatch, right?
Getting in the rhythm of the game. I think it takes a little bit to get used to that. Australia needed a one-map wake-up, and now they have really started to click.
Beat you up. Really being quite bold on a lot of these flanking maneuvers, but New Zealand, in the heat of these team fights, clearly don't have time to relay that information. So, a great example was, watching Cyan get knocked off the high ground. It was probably a rising uppercut that hit him, and right behind him, waiting for him to drop down, was Eat You Up. And then he just turns around and gets rid of Color Hex as well. That's the kind of above and beyond performance that you really need to see from Reaper players when your Doomfists are really called on to find those early picks and to give you a player advantage. If you don't get that player advantage, that's when that becomes so much more important. And this would be quite a sight for sore eyes.
Don't think we'll see McCree.
Oh, babe, come on. That'll be yep. Punk on the Winston, all about it.
Yeah. And just disregard the overlay. This will be Australia on offense here, so it is 1-1. That is factually true. But you will have Australia be on offense here.
Instead of fictionally true, yeah.
And yeah, it would be just fictional at that point, right? New Zealand, pretty much what you expect, right? They're going to run the Bash, and they have the Mei in play instead of the Pharah. You wouldn't really play the Pharah on defense. Too good of an opportunity to just snipe the Pharah from spawn. As Australia, they've wrapped around. They want to go access the high ground.
And each Wup's gotten quite deep, to be fair. No one getting picked off early, so Australia don't go for like the Pharah play to wrap around and just to sort of whittle down the defenders. They're a long way from the cart though. They're trying to get to the Bastion. It's all they need to do. Punk has to go for the kinetic grasp there, but it's not omnidirectional, Matt. He has to be turned in the direction of the damage you're trying to get rid of. A great Mei wall, and in the absence of an amplification matrix, it takes a lot longer for Cyan to get past the wall. And that gives Australia the opening to get rid of the two players that New Zealand had left on the cart. They leave Plies and Color Hex there. That was extremely clean execution.
They Mei wall the high ground. The healers for New Zealand, they're running Baptiste and Ana, so they have to be able to see those players to shoot and heal. Not able to do so. You lose Color Hex on the point. I believe you also had your Sigma down there as well. It's a pretty clean take there from Australia. Now Australia has Coalescence, so just going to go through the barriers, right? Put pressure on the Bastion, get the Bastion moving.
It's going to be up to Unter here just to keep that cart moving. If New Zealand commit to fighting him, that's when Australia can strike as the other edge of the pincer. Eats You Up, goes deep. Oh, we saw Cyan, gives him a love tap on the way through. He might have a chance to finish him off here. Great combination. Unter from across the battlefield gets the finish off from the work that Eats You Up done. Now Witchup's going to set up on the card. Happy as Larry. All of New Zealand are forced onto the high ground now. When CKM's Blizzard is going to exacerbate that even further. They had to drop off the high ground where they thought they'd be safe. Good ultimate usage. They're not overusing a lot of these abilities, and they get a clean 2-fight push to that first checkpoint.
And now you put New Zealand in a tough spot. They probably, with Flux, both support ultimates and tank mode, do not want to switch off.
Cyan's in trouble.
But look at where the golden box of victory is. If you don't switch off of this now, this is what you commit to for the rest of the round.
I mean, if they switch off this comp, they can't keep the Baptiste and Ana, so they give away their support ult economy as well. Whereas Unter and Tung are building those ultimates quite happily. They'll have a sound barrier here. And look at how far forward Australia is setting up here. Trill does have a supercharger if it would be required. They've really got everything that they need.
New Zealand's in a bad spot whether they commit to this comp or whether they switch. If all Australia has to do is know this scenario, don't use any ultimates, force New Zealand to invest, New Zealand will then switch,
they know that,
and then you have 5 ultimates against none. I mean, you are in a great spot here if you're Australia.
Do you think New Zealand are thinking that they can't switch now? Like
You're committed, I think. Yeah. I mean, I think the lesser of two evils is probably committing to it and trying to make it work.
Oh, they don't have that Lucio ultimate. They can't save Side. We're getting knocked up into the air with that gravitic flux, and the entirety of New Zealand's damage core gets absolutely rolled, dropped down on the ground, and Australia now triumphantly move forward. Yeah, I hear the sound across the map. Tank configuration won't help you from that range. Australia strike now with their second map. 2-1 now to make a match point, and it's going to get spicy as we head on, but we're definitely seeing an improvement across this series for Australia.
And I think now you know if you're New Zealand, your Bastion Mei, your Bastion Pharah cannot contend. Australia, they're able to break it. They did it on Eichenwalde. They did it on Junkertown. now you have to kind of try and fight them in that Reaper Doom matchup if you want the best chance to win.
Going to be absolutely brutal. We're going to be back in just a second, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a brief break before map number 4, which is going to be our assault map, comes around.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. Omen, the official PC and display of the Overwatch World Cup. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch World Cup.
Ils arrivent pour le deuxième point, mais ils peuvent encore passer. Oh, c'est fait! Le double kill à domicile!
Last 2 years, represent France is a huge honor for us.
Là où personne ne nous voit.
When esports was recognized in US or in Korea, it wasn't in France.
Unbelievable!
3 now for Sue!
It's not representing a team, it's representing a nation, and there's a ton of people watching you because they are French and they want us to win.
Ready for battle.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to map number 4 in this bracket A semi-final between Australia and New Zealand, and it just doesn't get any better than this, Matt. Australia really woken up late in the series, and now we go to good old Paris with a potential decider here. Australia can win the series right here.
So Australia, they'll be on offense here, and you may actually see some of these dive tanks try and make a play, knock this Bastion off of the bridge, or they could go double shield. We'll
Smooth
see what
brain,
happens. So,
Matt.
New Zealand running the Bastion May, so this has been kind of their go-to. Bastion setup, so run double shield for Australia on offense with May Reaper. So that has been their counter consistently to the Bastion setup.
Well, Maywall's going to be very important for Australia if they want to even get across. Probably going to go to the left-hand side. It's unlikely they're going to try and face off head-to-head against the Bastion setup. That is a filthy biotic grenade there from jungle, but it doesn't keep Plies alive. Now Australia, they're going to wait. Get that health back. Joker is in a position to halt them when that is off cooldown. He'll definitely try and get a pick from that one for Sign. That's the halt. Doesn't really connect, and Ichiwap is sneaking in. He's found Joker. He's looking to try and pick him off. The Maywall separating everybody, but that's the immortality field thrown down now. Australia, though, they're not at a huge risk. They're out of line of sight currently, and they can keep playing this game, keep rotating Ichiwap in.
Oh, jungle with a 3-player biotic grenade there.
August is in trouble though. Dodging, trying to AD that one as much as he possibly can. Color Hex is knocked off the high ground. It was a Coalescence aimed straight at him. Signed is still getting value with the high ground now though, but he is pretty low. Only 90 health in that tank configuration. He's trying to stave Australia off, but they're on the point now. One ticket. Sign's gonna have to set up in this window. There's still 2 tanks remaining, but Punk gets rid of jungle. Ana is now off the table, and August is a long way away from the fight. New Zealand will manage to hang on there, and Color Hex finding 2. And they're going to have to get back in position real quick.
And the reason Australia didn't really go heavy on that Bastion when they got the Sigma out of the equation is because of the Ana. You jump that Bastion, immortality field, biotic grenade at jungle's feet, connects with 2-3 players, instant wipe in favor of New Zealand. He actually connects with 3-player biotic grenade anyway, and that's where things fell apart.
Oh, Color Hex gets caught out there. Trill's able to hold him over the edge and find the finish. A 6v5 now. Far from over, but Ichiwap, look at him, staying away from the rest. He'll try and pick off August from behind here. CKM tried to go for the wall, but Sign is out of the picture now. The Bastion can't benefit from the amplification matrix, and New Zealand can't benefit from the Bastion. That immortality field is down. August out of the picture in Australia. They finally come up with the answer, and they'll get themselves this point.
And look, I mean, anyone who's played Paris knows that this could go for a very long time, and also probably one of the harder things to do is to be able to take point A. A lot of point A holds on this map. Australia, they break it, they take the point. They have ultimates as well, Mitch. Snowball is a scenario with all 6 ultimates here going into point B.
What do you think Nano Boost goes to here? The Bastion?
Yes, Bastion or May. Either the May to just give the damage reduction and last longer on the point, or the Bastion to be able to put damage down from range.
The only place Australia can capture the point now away from the Bastion's scrutiny is behind the statue, so they're probably going to try and find a way to take them out of the
Blizzard
picture
for
before
free
they
now. They know that they ice block, so you can get Color Hex with this Blizzard.
Okay, wall comes up there. Sign gets knocked down pretty much instantly, but Ichiwap is slept. Great connection from jungle, but is it going to be enough? Sound barrier now for Australia. The wall prevents Ichiwap from benefiting from it, but as soon as Joker gets dropped down, he finds the kill. Side now is out in the open, surrounded by Australians as the rest of his protection, his honor guard, has been taken out of the picture, and now Ichiwap gets to clean them up. And there's not a whole lot left here for New Zealand to work with, Matt. You talked about the snowball. It might be here. Good stall from Color Hex. He's dragging this one out a lot. But they're going to jump on Pliers now. Reinforcements are going to be pretty forthcoming here for New Zealand. And do Australia really have the damage to break this fight? Doesn't look like it.
No. And they don't even get
no tick, bro.
Tick. Welcome to Paris. So, jungle actually went through the choke on the other side. You saw it for a brief second. CKM with a nice Maywall. He actually broke up that line of sight with the Ana. But jungle stayed in that position. He was able to heal players as they came out of the spawn. So, Australia dumped everything into that fight. New Zealand invested heavy as well. They'll have an amp matrix and tank mode though for this next one.
Again, same route of approach for Australia. Likely they try and do the same thing, just stick a Maywall underneath Sign. That's when he's going to obviously pop that tank configuration. Australia will have to cross that bridge when they get to it. Do they realize that Color Hex is so close here on the left-hand side? If anyone, yeah, okay, they do. Nicely done. So they pick that out. Color Hex now can't really wall anyone off. They're trying to punish him with a halt. But New Zealand is in position to protect him. He chew up. Careful. Okay, side. Oh, they get him. They knock him off the wall. Each up did get knocked down by an accretion, but he already found the kill. Australia still need to play conservatively for the rest of this fight, but they've got rid of that immortality field that August had put down. Color Hex is missing. There are still supports in play for New Zealand, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case for very long at all. Gravitic Flux catches Trill, but that's about it. He just floats on down with that Fortify, and Cyan has to try and get a kill. Just one would have been okay, but nothing doing for New Zealand here. Australia, man, they've really nutted this one out. They figured out the approach to the point. 2 fights. The second fight with less ultimates, and they still break New Zealand.
Good time there for Australia. 2 minutes plus, and you know, when we saw Aichi up on the flank, right? What he's trying to do is get the Bastion, because the Maywall comes out from CKM. You also had Color Hex put a Maywall there as well, like doubling up the Maywall, so Australia couldn't try and push out of that. But they don't account for Aichi up coming on the flank. So the Bastion's low, going over Color Hex's Maywall. He thinks he's saved by his teammate's Maywall, but it's actually Aichi up who's on the other side of that. Kills him, Wraith walks away, and he's able to keep his life, stay alive. Australia then moves on to the point. They're forced also to have August use his Amp Matrix for the extra healing and damage that it provides to even give themselves a shot. But good offense there from Australia.
Clever use of that May for CKM, and we saw it play it the entirety of that attack. Whether it's being able to cut off, you know, August or Jungle's line of sight on the Ana, or just make sure that Signed is held above that Orisa barrier that's been dropped down by Joker. It's worked very effectively, and Signed's honestly struggled. Paris point B is definitely a point where you can get quite close to, you know, quite close to the Bastion setup without being in line of sight. You did see that Punk had to use kinetic grass to get across one of the windows, but once they're there and they're in position, each up can just wait for his time to pop out and do work. And Australia, we'll see what they go on with defense here, but it looks like they're not going for a Bastion play at all.
Which New Zealand looks like they want to commit to the Bastion again. So what's interesting for me, I'd love to know if you share the opinion, I thought Signed was really good on the Doomfist, and they haven't gone back to it.
I think it was a better Doomfist by far on Lijiang Tower, especially. He looked very, very good. So I guess Australia are banking on being able to A, cut people off with this wall, but B, again, get Signed above that Orisa barrier, punish him from long distance, where he's less effective, not ineffective, just slightly less. Okay, so Plies gets across.
To do what?
Well, I mean, this is what you have to do. You have to commit on him. That's perfect. I mean, Sign was a little bit close behind Plies there, so he get caught out awfully fast. Color Hex staggers himself with the ice block.
I don't really love the Bastion on offense here. I mean, I think we can just talk about that now. It's like, in this choke, there's just so many areas to get Maywalled off. The angles aren't very good. Like, if Sign gets into the little cafe there to the left, who is he shooting at? I mean, he gets Maywalled off. He has to go back into the main choke and walk out. Like, he becomes completely useless. Like,
so New Zealand have to go all together then if they're going to try and take that position. But the first Maywall from CKM makes that really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, no Maywall here.
But then you have to burn your Maywall just so they can't use theirs.
Which they've done. So Color Hex has to put that one down. Sign's going to sit here for the time being, and he's not going to have too many opportunities to take shots here. Jungle hits a biting grenade. Interrupt though, look at him. He was waiting. Sign, he realizes a little bit too late, and August didn't have a chance to get that immortality field down, or if he did, it didn't work. Once again, Ichua waits in the shadows, strikes just when the time's right.
But if you didn't want to play Doom Reaper, I get it. Why not bring out Pharah here? Like, Color Hex are really strong Pharah. Why not play like Pharah Reaper, Pharah Doom?
It can't be. Like, it can't be Pharah Bastion here, unfortunately.
No. You would not play Pharah Bastion offense, but you could play Pharah Doom. You could play Pharah Reaper here. I think you'd have a better shot than running this Bastion into the cafe over and over.
Well, they've stuck now with the Batiste setup, Matt, so there's going to be an amplification matrix online for the Kiwis. They don't have a tank configuration. Signed is not really sure where to sit right now. There's the wall, there's the Blizzard. This is going to be not fun for New Zealand at all. No, the Blizzard got eaten up by the kinetic grass. That is actually massive. Interrupt finally gets rid of that immortality field, but with the Blizzard being offline, that was Australia's huge draw card in that fight, and Flyers has it for dinner.
And it's brutal because what they're trying to do is like that only works for Australia if the Blizzard goes down, right? So when they use the Blizzard, gets eaten up, they've already committed to the engage, and at that point they can't win it. I mean, you're just running into your death. If the Blizzard comes down, you're in a good spot, but it's just a really tough position for Australia to be in.
New Zealand now up to 4 minutes, so they've got plenty of time to work with. Australia, definitely the eggs on their face after that fight, but they come back in with 2 support ultimates. So they wouldn't be really too upset about that. We see the switch off the Ana now for jungle. The Moira. We'll see how New Zealand, if they try and take a similar approach, they can still leverage that Mei. Having the Bastion means they don't have a flanking Reaper to work with, though. That could hurt them. Hunter, sound barrier, customary response to that gravitic flux, and Sign just gets blown up. Frozen and then hit with the coalescence.
They got Australia to invest pretty hard, though.
Do you need to use both support ults in that fight
Both,
outside of the sound barrier for the gravitic flux? Is that necessary?
Both support ults and supercharger there? It's a lot, man. It's a lot. As they're going to come back, tank mode, you can get a coalescence here, you'll get an amp matrix, most likely you're going to get blizzards on both sides. It's a lot for Australia to burn there. The saving grace for Australia is that New Zealand does not play the Lucio here because you need the Baptiste Moira. So you can get off the gravitic flux and feel pretty good about it being fight changing.
The support ults are scary here, but there's no Lucio though for New Zealand, but there's an immortality field. They still take a ton of damage though, and with that field down, that damage would have to be healed off either way. Sign looks pretty comfortable. Quite the cinematic experience we're getting there. And now with an amplification matrix, there's no one that can stand against it. So New Zealand take a lot of ground here. Australia still have players to work with, but they're getting split right now. So there's not as much merit in them backing off as a team. They probably should have just all died on the point. Can they make use of this Blizzard? Trill is running forward trying to get rid of Sign, but he can't get past that Orisa barrier. Color Hex throws down a Blizzard of his own. A very defensive Blizzard. Good setup there. Color Hex is in trouble, almost fell to the coalescence. I believe Tongue is behind them right now, trying to harass down the Bastion. It's only a matter of time though before he gets cut down. Hunter's now missing.
And they want to win it. They're going to invest the tank mode into this because they haven't even gotten a tick yet. That'll be tick number 1. Tick number 2 coming here shortly. You're probably going to get a touch here coming in.
I don't see where Australia has the ultimates to stop this push. Jungle's able to fade away while CKM tries to put him on ice. He does have the ice wall up, so at least Australia have something to hide behind and stall this out a little bit longer. Jungle has to fade away. Each shot trying to go in with the Hail Mary of the Death Blossom. It's no good. Even though they got rid of that immortality field, it was a little bit too late. Australia now are forced off the point by this coalescence
Sound
with an
barrier comes
amplification
back.
matrix in front of Sign. They have to use this barrier very quickly, man, to get onto this Bastion. They are able to freeze Sign, but the damage is not there. And right now, all that represents is more stall for Australia. Trill is frozen solid, and you can see that Tongue didn't really want to heal up that main tank. Just try and get damage with the coalescence. See if he can get rid of the Bastion, maybe. That gambit does not pay off.
Well, the Blizzard just separates so much area of the point there that they have to like kind of have Tongue. He's not able to heal. He has to play around the other side. He has to use the fade to get to the other side, stay out of line of sight of the Blizzard, and then stay on the point. So for New Zealand, you are able to take the point.
Trill's like, yo, bro, where's the healing at? No, don't worry about it. Battle Moira.
In what could have felt like, it felt like a very fast attack, but they end up actually with less time than Australia because there's just more time being used to get to point A.
Still a solid minute or thereabouts lead for Australia. And honestly, a lot of it probably comes down to them just using ultimates to stay alive and stalled out on that point B. Again, different compositions. These teams aren't trying to mirror each other. Australia definitely really backs CKM's mate. And to be fair, I think it's been the answer to the Bastion a lot of the time. I think Australia have been able to deal with that very well.
Think New Zealand plays this on offense?
I hope not.
It is very pick-oriented, right? Like, you're relying on getting a pick off.
The
like,
shield
like,
Look, I don't. Look,
shield
the shield
pressure
pressure
means
is
nothing now.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
with
good.
2 shields, it means nothing.
It's good, but there's also a Mei wall as well. And you don't use that to shield yourself. You just
But
put it in
you
front
have
of Hanzo.
you have Hanzo who can insta-kill really, Farah as well. Halt hook combos, right? Maybe you're playing like a little bit more of like, hey, let's get a pick off and play off of that.
Well, it's a sustained damage setup, Matt. You know what I mean? Like, the longer they can stay alive, the better off they're going to be. As long as they have proper line of sight.
You see how fast Australia backed away from the edge there? If you get knocked off there with the conk, you're dead.
Yep.
I mean, with all the damage that they have. So
Australia
have to back up.
They can't really interact with Color Hex right now. And honestly, Signed is so strong at long range, and Australia is only good when the fight gets taken to them. That's what happens. You just get picked off eventually. It's a matter of time. The longer you stay subject to this Hanzo, this Farah.
Set up for it. I mean, he just gets a solo kill.
I mean, they're done. They're in trouble now. Pressure onto the supports here. Color Hex is nailing these rockets, and a great change to New Zealand. Oh, you know, look, feet getting a bit sore. It's been up in the ground.
And this is bad for Australia because when the other team is going to run the bash on the other side, it just drains the clock. And with 2 minutes to go, the bash is going to take up 30 seconds of that, 45 seconds of that just set up. Really strong offense here from Australia, from New Zealand.
It's such a clever response here, knowing that Australia aren't going to play the Bastion.
You're going to get some ultimates here as well.
Nano boost, definitely going to be there. Dragon Strike's a possibility, but Australia aren't playing the Bastion comp, so they're not really going to be static, as static perhaps as they would be otherwise. Maywall, Signed. Can't get over it. Australia, perfect timing. They use that wall. They get 2 quick kills, but New Zealand still has damage on the table, and it's a 4v4 fight now, heading in the final moments. Color Hex is low. He can't get the barrage. He's cut down by Eichenwalde before he has a chance to hit Q, and now Plies is going to get caught on the point. They almost get a tick, the New Zealanders. Close, but no cigar. Australia will hold them off there at that final point. Now we know what their win condition is, bro.
He spent so much time trying to nail that Lucio, just going around on the middle of the pole. Is not able to do so, but still, look, as good as you can ask for New Zealand, right? I mean, Sign connects with 2 players straight away, connects the headshot on an I eat you up, takes him right out. Punk as well, they're able to move on and take point A. I can't stress enough how important that is on a map like Paris. It's so hard, especially when they're gonna run. What do you think they run? Do you think they run Bastion here? I think they probably run Bastion. Do you run Bastion May? You run Bastion Farah? Looks like Bastion May.
Well, look, you can just drain the clock a little bit with the Bastion composition. Even if Australia maybe have a good comp, they have to sort of get in position. You saw how many times they used the Maywall to try and get below that ledge and just try and wait for a halt to get these picks. Now, if New Zealand see Australia trying to push the way they did last time, and they just sit back from the ledge a little bit, so Australia can't pull them off with hold, they can probably hang around a bit longer. Australia are going to have to go delve a little bit deeper to try and find that first pick. The first fight is going to be the most important one here, or at least Australia's setup. Losing a player early is super nasty. Honestly, mate, the pressure's back on each of us.
That's why I like the Farah on offense against this kind of composition, because the concussive blast to knock players off from the high ground is relatively the easy one to get.
What's so safe,
and it buys you so much space, right? Like just having the presence of the Farah buys so much space.
You take a risk playing it against Sigma because you know you won't have a sound barrier available. But if you can win that first fight quickly enough, you can get those picks, then it's never an issue.
Right.
All right, here goes Punk. Playing close to the edge here. Oh, we actually hit that on Color Hex by the looks of things, but Australia gets split up by the Maywall. Color Hex still low, taking a lot of damage from those hyperspheres.
But like we mentioned, 30 seconds off the clock. We haven't seen anybody drop yet. I mean, the Bastions have just drained so much time.
They have to go now. Immortality field is down. They're going to make use of this time. Beautiful accretion. Can they get the finish? They can. Huge. That was massive. A 4-player body grenade comes out there, and August is able to find 2 quick kills because Australia can't heal themselves up. Wall gets thrown in his way. Australia may have the high ground to a degree, but they still need those players to come back in. Jungle just ruined them. August now has an amplification matrix. If he can keep signed up, they'll be fine. He still needs to return to the fight. And we're back. Sorry about that brief interruption. Color Hex is able to find 2 quick kills and a third, getting rid of Tongue. And the scariest part about this for Australia is that New Zealand have a blizzard. They have a supercharger,
but nothing really changed. I mean, New Zealand was just giving them the work, right? As Australia now in a tough spot. They'll have a... You can't really blizzard the top here, so you're kind of... But you can't wait for the other team to just... I mean, do you just counter blizzard, right? Just everybody blizzard at the same time?
I think New Zealand, they blizzard defensively. They try and back away from
oh, nice Maywall there from Color Hex.
Nothing. They need the Moira right now so badly. Okay, nice use of the shield there from Punk to give Australia enough time, but they cannot keep Trill up.
Dead.
13 seconds left, and New Zealand are looking to equalize to make this battle for the Tasman a 5-map affair. Here's the Blizzard thrown down. Signed only has a couple of seconds before he's frozen solid. And he's missing. CKM gets rid of him, and what's that Blizzard from Color Hex? It only catches Punk, but look at the zoning that it achieves. CKM and Unter now have to go together. It's a 3v3, but Australia a little bit split up in this fight. Unter is down. Ice Block has to be used there. And look at Tung, desperately just trying to use the Bionic Grasp to take August down. It's not enough. It was just him and his compatriot, the May, in that Ice Block form. Tung just got the Coalescence online, but it's too little. It's too late. It's going to map 5, baby.
Yeah, and Jungle up on the high ground for New Zealand on the Ana, just able to heal so many of those players on the point, and he was never contested there towards the end. Nobody able to go up, put any pressure on him, and this one comes down to a Game 5 scenario where New Zealand won the control the last time. Game number 1, can they do it again? I think this would be a pretty big upset.
Well, I think so. I think the way that the map went was a bit of an upset too. You know, with the way that Australia sort of capitulated to New Zealand on that overtime defense, you really would have thought that they would have been looking very solid going into the next map. And yeah, again, the thing that strikes me as the most poignant is that as hard as both of these teams have fought, only one can advance in this bracket. And they would have to face Denmark to get out of it. No small feat.
I think, if either of these teams is in another bracket, another group scenario, they could have made it out. It's just they end up matching up against each other. Which is,
I mean, you had Chinese Taipei in the same bracket as well, so
it's crazy bracket.
Pretty ferocious. That's how the seeding works.
Yeah, it's true. So New Zealand, they moved to 5-2. Those are map counts at the bottom. So that accounts for their 3-0 at the beginning. So it is 2-2. This is Australia's first match, potentially only match. If they're to drop this, that's a long flight.
Well, it's a long flight anyway, but it's even longer.
New Zealand too. I mean, due to that long flight, I mean, to come here and lose. Oh, that would sting too, to lose to, like, for either team to lose to the other in the
well,
first
like I said,
round,
either one of only Unter and Sign can win. Like, these teammates on other sides, like, well, you hate to see it, but I guess in that same vein, these two teams of players have been making themselves better in their home region for quite some time. I guess they would have probably wished to been able to unleash the force of the region on other teams instead of having to play Kingmaker to one another early on here in the bracket. But it's the way the cookie crumbles, everybody. And like Nostradamus said, be like that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure he is the one who said it. Sometimes it be that way.
You can quote me on that.
So, well, you would actually be quoting.
Yeah, you can quote me quoting Nostradamus.
Right, right.
Quoteception, baby.
That's some meta stuff there you got going on.
So both teams naturally.
I really missed your puns when you were gone.
It's not a pun.
Or whatever your witty remarks are. Really.
Matt says through
they've started to grow on me a bit,
That's not true.
No, that's definitely not.
So by the sounds of things, if you can hear,
I apologize for lying to you guys at home.
That's fine. You know what? I don't think they believed you anyway. It's all right.
Okay.
Sounds like Route 66 might be out of sight of Matt.
Why would that be?
Because I saw it.
Oh.
Do you think I could be wrong?
I mean, it should be control, but you never know.
True.
Crazy things have happened. Usually in this break screen. So I cast the Overwatch League, right? So usually in this break screen, we play music from all of the maps. I know you're not aware of that. You're not big time like me. So you may be a little bit confused. Usually Game 5 is control, but I may be wrong.
I mean, this is my first time using a proper broadcast headset. Like, this is kind of crazy. I feel like I finally made it.
So he's standing behind us. Like, I don't know if she's taking notes or feedback on our broadcasting technique, or if she's taking notes on the teams.
Well, she has a ton of notes on the teams already. I'll have you know.
True.
She came prepared.
So
both these teams are probably taking a brief break before they jump into the next match.
Yeah, they probably want to break before Game 5. I kind of want to just keep filling, though, to be honest.
Do you want to do that?
I'm having an excellent time filling. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, be that as it may, we're going to take a very brief break while these two teams get themselves ready, and we'll return for our map 5. And save your energy, ladies and gentlemen, because there's only one more map And if it's control, like Matt says, then, well, it's going to be a clear-cut winner. Australia or New Zealand, there's a hell of a lot on the line, a lot of pride, a lot of rivalry, and there's probably, you know, I mean, winner probably gets like 1 million sheep or something like that. So it's all happening here. Really important for the agribusiness between these two countries. So we'll be back with that match when it begins. Okay, guys, Matt hasn't sat down yet. Make sure you don't tell him that he was right. It doesn't matter. You know what? We all make mistakes. It is going to be control to finish things off, though, and I mean, this would be quite the match. This is the map that that Australia beat Japan on to make their way to BlizzCon 2 years ago.
Oh wow, I'm so surprised. I was right. It's Game 5 on control.
What are you talking about? You didn't
just
say
like
that.
Every match that's ever happened in the history of
You didn't
matches.
say that, though. You didn't say it was control. I didn't hear that.
Tweet
I
me.
think I said it was on control, and you disagreed. You
Tweet
said it would be
me.
Route 66.
Tweet me who was correct.
I'm pretty sure Matt just lives in a post-fact world. I mean, just makes up his own reality.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's jump on in, ladies and gentlemen. It is Oasis. It
I'm
is
like
our
Doctor Strange.
bracket A semi, and it is map 5. That's it. In fact, Eichenwalde was actually one of the players that gave Australia the win with a massive pulse bomb here on this very stage, actually. So, love me some history.
Now we get to see the Battle East Doomfist yet again. Map number 1, Sign definitely got the upper hand.
CKM
scenario, anything can happen.
CKM had a really good angle, but he only really had large, bulky targets, so that rocket punch isn't really going to cut the mustard. But, well, Eichenwalde managed to find plies. It was actually an accretion that knocked him down earlier on. Good start for the Aussies here. They managed to trade out well, and see, when the fights are centered around these Doomfists, Matt, you mentioned this before, you know, it is a matter of sometimes waiting for them to find the pick, and CKM is able to come out with the first one.
His Eichenwalde just does some work during that fight. I mean, 80% towards a Death Blossom, 21% for Color Hexes. Dropped a little bit early, but I feel like his Reaper's been extremely impactful. You know, when especially on Paris, you know, they needed that play to break open B. It was Eichenwalde with some help of a nice Maywall from CKM, but he's really had himself a good series.
Color Hex goes for a reposition. In the meantime, actually, they get rid of CKM, so no Doomfist for Australia. Signed is much safer now, just to jump in and try and find some of these picks. He tried to go for the Death Blossom and he got good damage, but he was stunned up midway through. Gravitic Flux, sure. Let's use all the ultimates now as Australia just try and end this fight as quickly as they can. Meteor Strike for Sign. He knows Fade's been used by Tongue, but he can't find him, so he's not able to drop down and get the free kill on the Moira. Knocks Trill back though, and that should be enough damage here, really. CKM can only get the 1 kill before he as well is dispatched.
Australia probably just going to try and have players contest here. You just have Unzer get on, maybe one more player. Nope, everybody going to back out, coming out. They did get 60% off of that, though. So probably wondering why they invested so heavy. You get 60%. You come back, they burn a bunch of ultimates. You come back the next fight, you have some ultimates, maybe an advantage. You take it right back, and then we're up in the 80% territory, right?
Don't expect much from Plies Gravitic Flux here, just because the sound barriers are playing.
Yeah.
It's the Death Blossom from Color Hex that I'm probably going to keep my eyes on here. And that first Doomfist pick. Okay, Gravitic Flux, Hunter, yep, goes for the sound barrier straight away. Trill Supercharger does get removed awfully quickly. Color Hex picks up one out. Oh, what an interruption! Color Hex tries to knock on the front door with the Death Blossom. He just gets punched backwards. I guess that's one way to get rid of telemarketers, Matt. He'll get rid of Trill though. Color Hex working that left side flank, and New Zealand are able to hold off for the time being, and this will get things close to even now on Oasis.
No, I mean, they're going to pull past. They do use a ton of ultimates, though. I mean, both teams just kind of throwing ultimates in the bin. Australia, Eichenwalde will have a Death Blossom, you'll have a Meteor Strike. They haven't really been able to get, I would say either team hasn't really had that great like Halt Meteor Strike combo in this series. We have not seen it timed well. Even the Flux plus the Meteor Strike we have not seen timed well by either of these teams.
Ichiro has another Death Blossom available here. And in the right spot to use it as well. He knows! He knows that Sign is coming! Color Hex, should I say. Sign was actually getting rid of Tongue in the meantime, and I don't think Australia have much to do here. This has to be a huge Death Blossom. 2-8 bad. They might need some more. Jungle and August taken down by Ichiro. He gets the perfect brace of kills. Enough to put Australia back in the driver's seat. Cleaning New Zealand off, and had that not worked for Australia, that round could have been over.
He gets both supports. That is nuts there. I mean, he doesn't get that. I mean, Jungle's got the sound barrier, right? I mean, he's probably waiting for the Gravitic Flux. But
he probably uses it in that fight if he has to.
You probably use Flux if you don't get those players with the Death Blossom.
Well, if Jungle has time to answer the Death Blossom, he probably uses barrier there and not for a Flux later on. And
I don't think so. I think you'd probably rather die to Blossom, to be honest.
Oh, the knockoff? No, nothing there. Color Hex and Ko able to drop back down on the low ground, and it does give Australia good positioning. Color Hex is down. Punk was able to find it, but Signed responds back. It's a 5v5. Glides is out of the picture, though, and Signed is close. Very close to being able to get out of jail free card with that Meteor Strike, but his team is being cut to pieces around him. 97% and counting. Drill with the supercharger, the cherry on top. Just what the doctor ordered to get Australia across the line, and they are one round away from advancing here.
Sign cannot do much more on Doomfist. I mean, every fight the guy's getting a pick. I mean, he's gotten Tongue a few times, you know, the Moira player for Australia, but it just still has not been enough. So let's see what the teams decide to do on the next point.
I mean, I don't know what you're doing right now on the other monitor. You probably just muted me because, this Australian guy is annoying or whatever. But listen, forget the Bledisloe Cup. In fact, forget the World Cup. Forget any time Australia plays New Zealand. This is the head-to-head that I want to see.
Do you run Sombra here?
I mean,
Reaper?
It depends. Like, are you worried? I mean, you could kind of do work, I guess, against Doomfist in a way.
Well, you remember
last World Cup against the Pharah?
Last World Cup, like kind of when like Goats was still a thing, like a lot of teams were running like Sombra Doom, right? I mean,
this was actually this is very Contenders Gauntlet as well.
Yeah.
Teams actually started to gravitate back towards the Sombra. By the way, Face, the coach of Australia, was at the Gauntlet with one of his teams there. So it is possible that this is an adjustment they made to try and counter the Doomfist Reaper, but it's execution heavy.
Easy ult charge as well off of just burning through tanks. You just lose a lot of front-loaded damage, though.
Well, you don't have that big potential.
None.
Yeah.
And especially with the shields, like you break off the hacks through the shields. If your shield placement is good and you track well, you can kite this.
Like a lot of the teams that were successful over at the Gauntlet got a lot of value out of this Sombra. Australia doesn't really feel like they're going to be able to do that here. Now, theoretically, you could, because you have a bit of high ground for a Sombra to hack people and work from, but better safe than sorry here. Switching back to the Doomfist. Wise is knocked. CKM takes a bit of damage as he tries to get back to the rest of his team, and the Coalescence kind of get forced. Australia just back off on this. This is a good sign for them. Getting Color Hex, saving the Moira ultimate for later, and New Zealand are in trouble now. They're going to have to try and fold back onto the point as much as they can, but Plies is so low, and Punk maybe overextends a little bit there. New Zealand remain in control right now, and Sign's able to find Hunter. With the Coalescence off the table and a missing Lucio, Australia can't convert here.
You had just beaten them in the mirror. Why?
Well, you just have everything you needed to do to win.
With it? And we know how difficult this point is to retake because it's so large. Like the point has so much area that you can just kite the pillar to hide. Like it's a really like risky all-in play on the Sombra by Australia. Like a first fight all-in play, and it backfires.
Punk's going to push up here. Gravitic Flux going to be available. There it is. CKM follows up with a Hulk. First time this series we've seen that. But Trill, well, he lines them up. And that's an easy knockdown for CKM. You know, using an ability that in many cases is just to get out of jail or to get out of danger. Australia get a pretty cheap fight win. That is exactly what they need here. They don't spend support ultimates. They don't use Ichiwap's ultimate. They don't use Trills. Just the one ultimate.
Halt Meteor Strike.
And that is the best case scenario when you are so far behind. You prevent yourself from putting yourself in a position where
it's still
be missing kills.
it's still not a great position. I mean, 83% for New Zealand. Australia goes and takes the high ground here. It looks like ColorX wants the TP high ground, but he needs some players to drop down. He can't go up into everybody.
Sign gets that sound barrier now. New Zealand want to start the fight with it aggressively, and it works out well. Biotic Orb's enough to claim Hunter. There's the knockdown though. Punk's able to drop Plies. Australia took a lot of damage from the Gravitic Flux as well, but Punk's able to stay healthy, stay hale, and they're back behind the shields. Punk, okay, doesn't hold on to the accretion. He actually throws it straight into a fortified Orisa. And that's going to keep Joker alive for the time being. Some crowd control would have been pretty handy, but Australia lost the point as this fight happened. Oh no, they actually didn't, so they retake it here. New Zealand almost retook it from them. Excuse me, the colours are a little bit different.
Yeah, so you did have your Lucio for Australia dying really early at the beginning, and you still lived through the flux. And he comes back towards the end, drops a beat, but you probably didn't need it. It does force out Coalescence, so kind of resets some of the support ultimate economy across the board. But Tongue now, you have the advantage of this Coalescence, right? As Meteor Strike comes in.
Holds there as well. Yeah. Perfect! Absolutely perfect from CKM. Joker and Plies are out of the picture, and there's no shields to hide behind for New Zealand. And now they're running out of time. Australia are now going to be equal in terms of capture percentage, and there may only be one fight left here. Let's see if New Zealand have what it takes, but they don't really have support ultimates.
You're relying on Sign. I mean, he's gotten so many picks in a lot of these fights and control maps. Can he do it again? Australia can play at a distance, though, with a high ground here.
August is charging up that Coalescence awfully fast. Faster than he might have expected. There's a Gravitic Flux, don't want to get rid of Plies early on in the fight now. Trump has to Wraith walk away, but he's ready with the Death Blossom. And all Sign drops onto is a big old cactus. Australia looking sharp now to take Oasis and the series away. And the Battle of the Tasman is about to be decided. Give me the Butterslow Cup back, New Zealand. We'll have that too. Australia make their way further through the bracket for a faded matchup with Denmark and New Zealand. So close, Matt, but fall off in the final map.
Yeah, I mean, they had a great match earlier against Austria, but this one they fall just short against Australia. As, you know, I think New Zealand, they'll look back at this series, and they had a lot of Eichenwalde for me. You know, losing that one, that is one they needed to be able to win. I mean, you had Eichenwalde, you had the high ground, you had everything there, the Bastion set up. And Australia with, like, what, 20 seconds left on the clock, able to get to the payload and make a play and keep it going, and then to lose in a Game 5 fashion. It's probably a brutal loss for New Zealand. Australia, now I think, though, they're in a better spot moving forward, right? You've got a game under your belt. It does go the distance. It's a tough one. But now you have to feel pretty good going against Denmark.
I mean, you know that you're going to be up against quality opposition in that match as well, but I mean, the sheer talent on New Zealand's roster, I think that's evidenced by just how, you know, much better they're looking this year and will continue to do so. Players that you definitely want to memorize these faces because you're going to be seeing a lot more of them around, but sadly not for this event. Australia breakthrough, it wasn't an easy one, and it doesn't get any easier from here on out in bracket A. As you can see, is our schedule. That'll be our final between Australia and Denmark. And after that, we're going to head over to bracket D and get that one finalized. Thanks for joining us so far, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mitch Leslie with Matt Morello. We'll be taking a short break, and we will return with the conclusion of bracket A. Australia versus Denmark fight for their spot in the Overwatch World Cup 2019.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. Omen, the official PC and display of the Overwatch World Cup. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch World Cup.
Il arrive pour le deuxième point, mais ils peuvent encore passer. Oh, c'est fait! Le double kill à domicile!
Last 2 years, represent France is a huge honor for us.
Là où personne ne nous voit.
When esports was recognized in the US or in Korea, it wasn't in France.
Unbelievable!
3 now for Sue!
It's not representing a team, it's representing a nation, and there's a ton of people watching you because they are French and they want us to win.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. Omen, the official PC and display of the Overwatch World Cup. And by Coca-Cola,